Hey friends, I'm Christy Hughes and you're listening to Rock the Damn Boat. If you've ever bitten your tongue to keep the peace or said yes when every part of you wanted to say no, this one's for you. We're diving into the messy, real stuff that people pleasers like me have spent years avoiding. It's time to have the hard conversations, shake things up, and learn to stand tall, even when it makes waves. And speaking of shaking things up, we have a little bit of language in here, but nothing too severe. I'd say PG-13, because my guest has really taken a stand for midlife women everywhere and is rocking the boat when it comes to her writing. Scherr holds a master's degree in counseling and has been in private practice for over 15 years. She was inspired to rock the damn boat by her mother, who she says navigated a difficult childhood, marriage, and lupus while putting little stock in other people's opinions. Ellen's unfiltered writing on midlife transitions, and specifically her post, Aging Out of Fucks, the neuroscience of why you suddenly can't care anymore, has recently gone viral on Substack and beyond. Known for her sharp, honest voice and a refusal to sugarcoat what midlife actually feels like, Ellen names the identity shifts, rage, grief, and reckoning many women are experiencing but rarely say out loud. All right, I am so excited by my guest today. When I started this podcast a couple of months ago and decided that I wanted to rock the damn boat after a lifetime of people pleasing, I was anxious to hear from somebody who knew the science behind that, the neuroscience, kind of what's going on in our brains. I think that was when I first came across you. You had about 13.5 thousand subscribers on Substack, and that article had been served up to me in an email, I'm sure by Substack, just recommended reading for me. And that is what Rock the Damn Boat is all about, for us to find our voice and talk about these things. So welcome to the show, Ellen. I'm so happy to have you.
I love the name of the podcast.
Well, thank you. And it sounds like from just our initial chats and everything that I've read, you have some experience with rocking the damn boat. Maybe you're a little more out loud right now than you have been, but tell us a little bit about you and kind of what led you to this new identity.
Okay, I'll give you a condensed version. Is I gave up a long time career in sales. Was very unhappy. 46, decided to go back to change my career totally. And at 46, I enrolled in my master's program for counseling. And 2 weeks after I started, my husband decided he didn't want to be married anymore. And he left. And then I was sitting with a pile of textbooks, newly going back to school with an 11 and a 14-year-old.
Wow.
And if that wasn't enough, perimenopause started shortly thereafter.
Yes.
It was like, just bring it all on at one time. So had a rough beginning and worked through it, started practicing. And I think it was last August when I decided to try to expand what I'm doing in my private practice to try to help as many women as I can. I was talking to a friend and she mentioned Substack. And I'm not a big social media person. So I said, okay, I'll give it a try. So I started on Substack, got advice on what to do, write the post, put the notes out, doing it consistently. Almost gave it up a couple times because I was basically hearing crickets, but my sister kept liking.
Right. You have those loyal 25, 30 friends that are going to like everything you do. And yes, we're grateful for them. And
if it wasn't for her and my good friend Susan, I would have had nothing. So I don't remember what made me think of the post, but I do remember thinking that maybe I need to go out of the box a little bit. And I thought, wow, can I put this out? Like I wasn't even sure, they would allow it. So I checked on that and they said, yeah. And I did. And next thing I know, my phone from my app is just going crazy. I'm like, what's going on here? And it just kept going and going and going. I'm calling my sister. I go, I don't know what's going on here. And so I realized what was happening. And yeah, it just took off. I guess it resonated with a lot of women that I think you alluded to, that, think a lot of things, but nothing's been said out loud. I'm not a shy person. Always tell it like it is. I do that in my private practice as well. And that's what I started doing after that. When I started to realize what women needed, I started writing more, geared to what the market was looking
Yes.
for. So yeah, I just wrote another one. I posted yesterday on what to do when you've aged out of fucks.
Yes. Yes. And just to catch our listeners up, and I'll have all of these links for everyone, but yes, you drop the F bomb in a blog post title and you get 13,000 followers and counting. There's just this idea that we stop caring about what other people think when we hit this age. And of course we'll get to the science behind all of that. But
Mhm.
I think too, I just love that you have found these ways throughout your life that led you to this that
Mhm.
aren't necessarily age related. I think realizing at 46, so I'm 50 and I just left my corporate sales director role in November.
Awesome.
And I was at a point where I just didn't feel as aligned to that type of role. I had a whole career in retail,
Mhm.
and from selling jeans in my teenage years to then working in a corporate buying office, then moving from buying to sales, I
Mhm.
built an entire career out of that. But as I started to grow more compassionate and wanting to help other people, just like you are, wanting to help the masses, it just wasn't going to be accomplished in a corporate role. And so I had been setting this idea on my notes and all my vision boards and all of that to quit retail and write full time.
Mhm.
And it felt like a moving target. And at
Mhm.
one point I had said 50, and I'm not writing full time yet, but I am using my voice in a big way. And
Awesome.
yes, I hit that 50
Yeah,
milestone. So
there's something that happens. I mean, I'm 70, close to
yeah.
71, unfortunately. And you realize over a certain period of time that you just aren't the same person. You're done with the people pleasing. You're done with a lot of the behaviors that as women we were taught early on, and still
Yes.
taught. Um, and when I thought about the post, I was like, well, there's more than just the hormones going on. And that's what most women don't realize. It's not just about the hormonal changes. It's a lot of things. I wrote another post, but the main driver, of course, we all know is estrogen. But when estrogen leaves, she takes a whole group of people with her.
That's what I'm learning now.
It's not Scherr.
Absolutely.
The
Yes,
popular
yes.
girl leaves the party and everybody else leaves.
That's yeah, I think we get caught up in different information around hormone replacement therapy or I'm reading so much now, and I'm actually going for an assessment for ADHD because it might have been that I've had this my whole life, and just
Right.
this intersection of
Yeah.
estrogen leaving the party and dopamine going along with her is all contributing to this sort of chaos in my brain. And
Right.
I'm not big on putting a label on it so much as I am figuring out the best and most effective way to treat it and to help normalize what's happening in my life. So,
Right. And
um,
that's the challenge we do have as women. And I talk about women, everybody's like, well, why don't you talk about the men? And I get a lot of comments from men. Um, they think I'm a big feminist and, I don't care about what the men are going through. Yeah, I get it. Men go through something too, but I haven't experienced that. So I can't talk to that. So I talk
right.
to women primarily because how we were brought up and conditioned is totally different than they were. And so we just get to a point when we say, excuse my language, I don't give a shit anymore. Oh, I want to wear my
Right.
pajamas to Target. Wearing them. I don't care.
Well, and you bring up a great point about conditioning, and I want to get into the neuroscience, but even just the conditioning of being raised to not rock the boat. And that's what my mother has shared with me. And I wrote that in my memoir. So she knows that, I'm not airing any dirty laundry. She was raised, and those were instructions given to her. Don't rock the boat. Don't, very much a conflict avoider. And
Mhm.
so that was what inspired the name of this for me. And I actually jotted this idea down several years ago, thinking, oh, maybe I'd give a lecture on it or something that was, sort of anti people pleasing. And so now I really know how it feels to want to rock the damn boat, because that was perimenopause. Now I am full
Yeah,
on.
you're really right.
I've got a few months more before I can say I'm postmenopausal. So I'm like, I'm full on it, but it just makes it easier. It makes it easier to rock the
Right,
boat. But
right. And
I want
when I wrote that, Christy, I didn't want to give the impression that everything that we get to a certain age and it's F this, F that. Okay. It's not about, that's not what
to,
I was
right.
talking about. I followed up with another post of still have to be kind. You still have to use
Yes.
discretion. But the inner people pleasing and catering to what other people expect or want from you, yeah, you can say F it to that.
Yeah. Yes. And I think there's a couple of things that come to mind for me that are at play there, because you do start to put yourself first, and that's difficult for people along the way. Absolutely. And I think that with people pleasers especially, which is why people gravitate to my show, is we've lived that way our whole lives, and we're afraid to do what we want regardless of what approach we take, even if
Right.
we do it in a kind of tiptoeing into something. So I like to coach women who are wanting to explore a project or a new business or what that looks like, and helping them create that courage to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
And unfortunately, when we're in corporate America, we don't have the ability to do that. We're stifled. And I've been in
yes.
corporate America many, many years. And for me, for my personality, it was extremely difficult, because I got labeled outspoken, not a team player, whatever it was all negative. It was never
Yeah.
done in a positive way, like, wow, she's really outspoken. No, it was said in a negative connotation. Like, can somebody keep her mouth shut?
And
Um,
such a double-edged sword, because then advice that I got early in my career, or even as I started to gain in leadership roles, was, oh, you have great ideas, but you don't speak up. Oh, you
mm,
should speak up more. So I'm the opposite, in the sense that it's always been difficult for me. And then it was sort of, well, I was not going to get ahead because I was too quiet.
right. I
So
know we're
you're
caught in
damned if
that
you do
double.
and damned if you don't.
It's a double-edged sword for us.
Yes.
And I don't mean to make it about a woman versus man thing, but it is. I mean, we know the realities. Men might disagree and they'll say, no, they have, it's the same for them. And yeah, maybe to some degree it is, but
Yeah.
we face different things. So on top of all of the hormonal changes, we have a lot of personality changes going on as well.
I think that one of the things that I started to develop along the way, and was and worked with people on, was being more assertive. And I think when you talk about doing things kindly, that yes, there's this misconception of assertion can be mean or cruel, or like you're saying, you labeled outspoken, and it's like, you're just being assertive.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to go back pre-menopausal. And I've got listeners in their 20s, some in their 30s, that aren't dealing with this hormonal change yet.
Mm-hmm.
But even from one of your articles, you talked about this, because you talked about the prefrontal cortex has been working overtime our whole lives, monitoring social cues, calculating risks. So tell us what's going on maybe in those earlier decades of 20s and 30s, where we're people pleasers because our brain is telling us to be.
Yeah, because in our 20s and 30s, we're in a different place in life. We're trying to find ourselves, we're trying to get ahead in our career. So we tend to be more careful, and we have a little bit more protection in our body to do that because of the estrogen and some of the neurochemicals in our body. As we approach menopause and some of that goes away, I mentioned in my post, there's kind of like a clearing in your brain. It says, you know what? I don't need this anymore. But most times we reach a certain age and we say, yeah, I think it's time for me. Let me figure it out. I mean, a lot of people thought I was really a bad mother for going back to school. Um,
Mm,
but it took me a year to make the decision. I had taken out a $40,000 loan. And first thing I did was I said, no, I'm not going to be able to finish school. It was a mess. He left out of the blue, and I had two young children. So a lot of judgments on us. Oh
mm,
no, you
mm-hmm.
should be taking care of the kids, and that's most important. So yeah, I had the normal guilt that
Yes.
any mother is going to have. And I said, no, I think it's also important to show my kids that you can do whatever you want to do.
Yes. You're right. We have what's going on in our brains, and then we also have that social pressure that is much different when we're early in our careers or have young children. And that is something that I think about a lot, is how to frame it up for women not to feel selfish,
Mhm.
because it can feel very selfish. And at the same time, you think, how can I value myself as much as I value the person that I am pleasing? So
Yeah.
it's a matter of, it's your, if you are looking for a more fulfilling career, and whether this was or wasn't, but for some people, maybe it's a bigger financial move and you're going back to school and it's a short term sacrifice for a long term gain. And so having to put all of those things into perspective can be important, because then you realize, well, this is a sound decision, even if people may not feel like it.
Yeah.
Um,
You know what the number one word is I hear in my private practice all the time? Guilt.
mm,
It's the
yeah.
biggest word in our vocabulary. I feel
Yeah.
guilty for doing this. Comes up over and over and over again. Why? Why should we feel guilty? Why should I have felt guilty that I was miserable in my career and I needed to change it and allow my life circumstance to control the rest of my life?
And in your opinion, is that more of the social conditioning then that kind of leads us to that place of guilt?
Yeah, it's just, well, as women, early on, we're just taught to think about other people. Not that it's wrong, but our empathy level and be kind and don't rock the boat and all the society conditions that we have. It's very difficult to challenge those, even no matter
Yes.
how old you are.
Yes. Yes. And I'm sure, just like you're sharing now with your work, that it's a lot harder when those different hormones and brain functions are at play, like oxytocin and the bonding hormone, and that makes us seek out a mate, and mother that's present in motherhood, and all of these things that make us want that connection. From my understanding, that starts to drop at the same time. She leaves the party with estrogen too, and so you're like, oh, I don't need, that same level of bonding and connection that I
Yeah, and think
did.
about all
So
the changes we go through between all the hormonal changes. And then if you have children, empty nest, divorce, and what career change, whatever it might be. Okay. That's a lot.
yes.
And I think society underestimates what we go through. And so part of my message was, hey, let's wake up society a little bit and let them, be more aware of what we are going through. Things are much different today talking to a doctor about perimenopause or menopause than when I was going through it. When I was going through it,
Hmm.
it was like, yeah, just suck it up and, deal with it.
Yes, and I think when we chatted before this, we talked about like my mother had a hysterectomy in her 30s, so she didn't under she had hormone replacement therapy for part of her life, and then they kind of let her phase off of that she when she would have reached menopause. And I think a lot of women might, so Gen X or before, their mothers may have gone through the same thing, and they weren't having those conversations because they didn't know.
Right.
And we were also not willing to rock the damn boat on talking about things
True.
that
Right.
maybe were supposed to be kept in private,
Hmm.
but we
Yeah, the hardest
normalize them by talking about them.
thing for me in perimenopause was my hot flashes when I'd be at work, no matter where I was, if the room got too warm, my cheeks, I could feel they were
Mm.
like on fire. And I knew they were like bright red. And I was so embarrassed. Because like I'm, in a room full, let's say in a meeting with a group of colleagues, and most of them are men, like, oh, I'm sorry, I need to step out for a sec. I'm having a hot flash. What am I supposed to do? Um, so we have to kind of keep it under cover.
Yes. Yes, and I think that's
Been announced in the workforce.
right. Right. And I'm struggling with some of the guilt that I have about leaving my job because
Mhm.
I was going through so many changes, and we were so busy this past year that there was a part of me that just, I quote unquote couldn't handle it. And it's not that I couldn't handle it. It
No.
was overwhelming. I was very much in a place of overwhelm. And I made the ultimate decision because I knew there were other things I wanted to do with my life beyond sales. But at the same time, I can understand how so many women struggle in the workplace because for someone who had been so high functioning and high achieving as I had, to
Mhm.
feel like I couldn't keep anything straight in my mind,
Mhm.
it was alarming.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. There's just so many different emotions that come into play, and we just don't talk about it. We don't talk about it to each other as women, which has changed a lot.
Yes, yes,
But
very
when I
much
was
so.
going through it, I mean, you only talk to like your close friends, Are you having night sweats? But other, than talking to a close friend, but there was nothing to really read or educate ourselves on it.
Yes. Well, I love that you are sharing your wisdom from your practice and the work that you're doing. Now, you are in Florida?
I was in Florida, and
Okay.
that's another example, is 5 years ago, maybe because I was had finished menopause or whatever, I just said, "I'm moving to my happy place." That's where the sun and beach is. I said to my adult kids, "Mom's moving to Florida. You wanna come and see me? Come down and visit." And again, people thought that was like horrible. Why would you want to leave your children? Like, well, because they're adults and they have their own lives. But it's
Right.
interesting. Every friend, everyone I spoke to, it was always a negative comment. Well, why would you want to do that? All your friends are here. Well, you don't know anybody there. Well, what happens if you don't like the weather? It was one negative after another. And we're just kind of conditioned to question ourselves when that happens because
Yes.
we go, well, wait a minute, am I really being foolish? Like, what's going on here? And I had to just block it all out. And I said, what's the worst thing that can happen? I'll come back. It's not like I have a one-way ticket. Yeah, okay, I might lose some money on, real estate or whatever. But then my son gave me some grandchildren. So it's all his fault.
Yes.
Now I'm back in Chicago.
Right, right. We had talked about, yes, but closer to the grandchildren, totally understand that. I think it's interesting to me when I think about people pleasing and growing up in the South and Southern hospitality, and it's so interesting to me visiting different parts of the country and feeling like some people, this is not an issue for them at all. And
For some of it's
so
just personality.
yeah, yes, yes, true. So I guess with the genes, when we think about hormones, there's different levels of everything in every single body.
Mhm.
So yes, some people
I think
might
about
have.
the stereotype, the good old Southern girl.
And that's where I'm in the Bible Belt, so certainly was raised to have very,
Mm,
Christian morals and ideals, and not really being able to think for myself. I would hope that my grandmother would support my yoga practice and my journey as a yoga teacher. She probably
mhm.
wouldn't understand it. It's totally different from anything she would have known. But
So
I do.
it's hard to go against that. That's that the nurture versus nature. I mean,
Yes.
it's hard to take that out. Okay. But for some reason, when we start going through a lot of hormonal changes, for some reason, it just becomes easier.
Yes, I guess I'm seeing that for myself, that I feel like everything's kind of evening out, in the
Mhm.
sense of I don't ruminate on things as much as I used to. No, I do occasionally. I just shared that on this this week's pod, but so there's things that get me worked up, but I definitely don't as much as I used to, and I don't stew
Mhm.
on things. And
Mhm.
part of that for me is sobriety. So I've been sober 7.5 years, and yes, thank you. I sometimes think, well, I started drinking in adolescence, and I can tell that that was to cope with some different things. So now I'm really proud of myself because I'm going through menopause sober. So,
That is awesome.
uh,
I started my career, my first job out of grad school was in a hospital setting in residential and outpatient treatment for teenagers and young adults with substance abuse problems. So I know the journey. So that's
yes.
awesome. Good for
Yeah,
you.
well, thank you. And I know that that was a lot of coping with anxiety that, like I said, is kind of, there's a lot of different things going on in my head now, but I'm grateful to be navigating it sober and with a clear
Mhm.
head. And but at the same time, I think, oh, I got to do a lot of breath work, a lot of nature, a lot of yoga to help me stay calm.
Yeah, we don't talk about what we have to do.
Right, right. Yes. Yeah. So let's get a little into the real science of it. I love all the conversation we've been having about, we know there's a lot of different factors here, but really what is happening in our brains and our bodies when we hit this time of life?
It's major. We underestimate how major it is. And most men don't understand how major it is. Oh, my wife, yeah, she's been a, BITCH because she's in perimenopause or whatever. They don't really understand it. And like rightfully so, they're not living through it. But all the different chemical changes, and there's about like 5 different major categories of all the neurochemicals that are actually changing. So we talk about loss of estrogen, but that's all we talk about. But it goes a lot deeper than that. I mean, we're losing a lot of other things neurochemically in our brain, which now is also causing us to be different. One of my recent posts was on the anger. We never talk about the
Mm.
anger. Why all of a sudden, it doesn't happen to everybody, but why do some women all of a sudden explode and have anger problems as they're going through it? Because those parts of our brain that were protecting us and maintaining that, it's no longer there.
Mm.
And so now, it's like peeling away an onion. You peel away all of those protective factors that we have in our body physically and in our brain, no longer there.
Right. And I think about when people, elderly people, maybe lose their filter, and then
Mhm.
they talk, they're just saying whatever's on their mind, or maybe being a little inappropriate. And it's like, well, that filter has gone out the window with
And,
whatever
and
has changed.
it has gone out the window.
Right. Right. Right.
We don't get that estrogen back. It's not like it comes back.
That's, yes, it's gone. And I delivered Meals on Wheels for years, and yeah, I think about some of my uh, male patients were always a little flirty. Say what's on your mind. So,
Mhm. Yeah, and part of
um,
that is because we have actually lost that ability in our brain.
and
We don't have it anymore. Now, can we control it? I don't know. I guess so. I don't want to become a bitter old lady and just say what's on my mind or, get out of my way kind of thing. So yeah, we have to temper it, but it becomes harder because we don't have all those other chemicals helping us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's when the guilt also comes in. Well, I never used to be like this. Why am I getting so angry? Now, you know what we do? We point the finger at ourselves and we're a bad person. What's wrong?
Yeah, and in reality, just like you're saying, we've lost this filter that was a people-pleasing filter all this time, and now we're really just kind of stepping into our authentic selves
Yeah,
and our
that's scary
authenticity
for
and
people pleasers. All of a
yeah.
sudden, start stripping away that onion. Yeah, that's pretty scary. For other people like myself that are really extroverts, okay, maybe not as much. But for other people who have been people pleasing their whole life, my sister's people pleaser. It's her nature. That's what she's been doing her whole entire life. Yeah, it's hard to realize that is going away. We then say, well, something must be wrong with me. I hear that a lot. I just had a client the other day, and she started saying, I've been seeing her for a while, and she said, I think I have anxiety. I said, okay, what's going on? And she explained, she's losing her temper and, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, honey, you're in perimenopause. She was thinking I was going to say, oh, yeah, you need anti-anxiety medication.
When in reality, it's just a change that is inevitable. And
So the real challenge is how we deal with it. And that's the hard part because
yeah,
everybody goes through something different. How I experience it is not how you experience it. It's different for every person. And that's what's so difficult because we want to have answers. Well, what do I do? I hear that a lot. How do I manage this? What do I do? I wish I had, a magic answer. I'd be very wealthy.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
but there is no magic bullet or answer.
I do think that so just like you offer therapy and you are offering some midlife courses and work, I think that that's where, regardless of what it looks like, who's the right fit, that finding a therapist or a
Mhm,
coach who can help you through this, I think the resources that we have today
mhm.
are far different, like you said, than what was in the past. And maybe that's a good starting point.
You're right. That is a good starting point because, yeah, the support that's out there today and the knowledge that's out there today is totally different. But
Yeah.
but again, as women, we're hesitant because we're like, yeah, then we'll justify it. Well, millions of women go through this, so why do I need to go talk to someone?
Yes. Yes.
And we'll do that mind thing, okay?
Right.
And then we'll talk ourselves out of it. No, it's fine. I can deal with it. So no, I agree with you. Thank you for saying that. Get the support if you need it. It's out.
Yeah, definitely. And I understand I'm a fiercely independent, sometimes stubborn woman. And so but I've got a coach that I talk to. I go to therapy, all the resources that I need because I know as stubborn as I can be about, I can do it myself. Well, I do not mess around with my mental health. I've been through too much as a teenager to
Mhm.
get back to that place and the lifelong with addiction, and so I'm proud of where I'm come, and I don't want to end up having that be a downfall and be so discouraged, so I think that
Plus,
that's a
it's
great place to
that
start.
a lot of the mental health stigma has disappeared versus
Yes.
how it was 20 years ago. But it's still not, I don't think a lot of women still equate going through menopause and having extra support. If I'm having depression or anxiety, yeah, okay, I need to maybe go talk to a therapist or something. But women aren't, we haven't been thinking about that as an option.
That's true. I mean, it used to be that you hear about hysterectomy came from hysteria and men thinking that women had hysteria. So, yes, I think menopause is later to come along than some of the other mental health things that we talk about. But now there's so much research about the correlation between menopause and hormonal health and then
Mhm.
mental health that it's
Yeah.
hard to
And
ignore.
find the
So,
right doctor. not all the doctors are as educated. So if you
Right.
have a doctor who's dismissive, find somebody else. There's enough
Yeah.
medical help now of men and women specializing in this.
Yes. And we can leave some resources in the show notes and, of course, ways to find you. I want to share a little bit. So I had read the most recent post, which I loved because a lot of it for me correlated between even some of my sobriety journey and recovery lessons. Said some of my listeners are in their 20s, some in their 30s, maybe not experiencing this yet. And boy, are they going to be prepared by the time they get
Oh,
here
so
because
way more prepared than we were.
yes, yes. It will be so normalized at that point that everybody's just gonna be like, oh, that's just my menopause acting up.
But
So- but I love some of the tips that you gave in this post that you published here just at the beginning of January. And you were talking about things you realize when you run out of fucks to give. And I think the advice, some of the things you talk about in here about stop explaining yourself. And for me, my sponsor, when I was in, which granted I was already in my 40s, so I was already going through perimenopausal things as well. But even as people pleasers, that is one step that you could take. She would tell me, no is a complete sentence. And so I love that you bring this up about not explaining yourself, because even someone earlier in life could start to adopt that idea that I don't have to explain myself. No is a complete sentence.
Yeah. But
And fortunately, it just gets easier, apparently.
Practice it. Otherwise, the guilt it hangs over. Like, oh, I'm going to really hurt their feelings. I can't really say that. So I'm going to
Yes.
have to soften my no.
You could, if younger listeners could start to practice those no's, and then the more you practice it, the easier it gets.
Yeah, it's just for some reason it doesn't come as natural to us, maybe as to men.
Yeah.
I don't think men over explain themselves. One guy asked another guy, you want to go to a sporting event, and the other guy goes, yeah, no, I can't. But we go, no, I think I got to do this, and then I got to check the day and see what's going on. I mean, there's a whole like dissertation afterwards.
Yes. I've been guilty of that my whole life.
Does it really matter? Do you think the other person really cares about why you can't go?
That was some other really good advice I got was nobody's thinking about you as much as you're thinking about you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's true at any age. So probably even truer back in your 20s, or when somebody's thinking about what their next date is for the week, or what their plans are, what concert they're going to see. And if you say no, they're just going to invite another friend.
Yeah, they don't really care.
Yeah.
I mean, they do. They'd like you to go, but yeah, the explanation of why isn't as important.
The over-explaining. And you talk about the friend audit happens naturally, which I love, because you do start to foster those really deep connections. And I was telling someone that mentioned they had lost some friends recently. I said, well, it's quality over quantity. I think that changes as you age too.
It does. When we're younger, it's all more groups. We want to be with a group of our women friends or male friends or mix of both. As we get older, we kind of grow out of that. It's not quite as important. And then we start to realize who's really being authentic and who's putting on a performance.
Yes.
And get to a certain point and we go, yeah, I'm done with that. So I've lost a lot of friends, and it's hard. Oh, I'm not going to say it's easy. And I still think about those friends. And sometimes I'll say, wow, I wonder if I should reach back out to them. And I say, no, there was a reason I ended the friendship, and that reason is probably still there.
Goes back to that second guessing you were talking about earlier, that we tend to second guess ourselves on things. You also mentioned in this post that the guilt loosens its grip. So that is something to look forward to as we age, is that the guilt starts to get a little quieter.
Well, am I cognizant of things? Yes, I pay attention to it, but I'm not guilty. I don't feel guilty for anything I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
that's what I want to do. And that's what I tell other women. Okay. Follow your heart and your gut. Something you want to do, don't let anyone else lead the way and talk you out of it, because that's what most people are going to do. Okay. I don't know about you, but it's been very rare in my life where anyone said, "Oh, yeah, go for it."
no, I think I have a friend who has a very successful pet food company, and I did a team building workshop at her company. They had 5 people at the time, and so did a little team building. And I remember sitting at the table and her saying that her parents were very encouraging, and her dad was one of those who would always say, you could do anything you set your mind to. And here she is, like, she just had a billboard on Times Square for
Oh my
her
God.
brand. Yeah. And so and for me, it was, I have very loving parents and they've been very supportive. I never heard, though, like, just go for it. It was always the secure path, take the secure route, the financially secure, not embarrassing. And so I just grew up so trapped in that
Mhm.
very quiet, people pleasing way, because I had not been encouraged to really live out loud. And again, that's probably some good girl Southern Bible
Mhm.
Belt upbringing.
But as we get older, that's the one thing that does change, which I found is that's why most men, when they get into midlife, are so unhappy, because they'll say, "Oh, yeah, I went to law school. I've been doing it for 30 years. I'm stuck. There's nothing else I can do." And they trap themselves. As women, maybe it's because we lose some of those protective hormones. We go, "I hate practicing law. I don't care. I've been doing it for 30 years or not. I'm going to go be a social worker."
And that's one of the things here in your post. You say you discover what you actually like, and that is something that I am loving at this phase in my life,
Yeah.
is getting to sit down and say, well, what do I really want to do?
Mhm.
Because I think it was in another article that you mentioned, like, we kind of get lost as to who we are when we lose those things. And going back to recovery, there's this idea of feeling like the hole in the donut
Mhm.
because you don't know, you've stripped away this identity that was tied to, going out and partying, and then what am I going to do? And so it was beautiful for me because I shifted into this place where I have been steadily increasing the use of my voice for 7 years, and thought I would write. And then this podcast is completely unexpected and I'm loving it. So, yeah, I discovered what I actually liked. Here I
The
am, 50
challenge
in
for a lot of
podcasting.
you're lucky you found that. A lot of women, when they get to that point, is, "I don't know what to do. I'm lost. I'm stuck." I hear that a lot. "I'm stuck."
Mm,
I'm about to launch a midlife assessment
I love it.
to help women who are in that spot to figure out what their next move is. So it's not just like a basic personality test.
Yeah.
Um, it really goes deep. I beta tested it with a couple people, and they tell me and I've taken it. It's very good.
Uh,
But I hope to help that portion of the population as well, because it's much easier when you know what your heart is driving you to do. But a lot of times I'll have a lot of women go, "Wow, all this sounds great, but I don't know what to do. I don't have any hobbies. I don't have any passion. Like, my kids are grown. I'm sitting home alone. I don't know what to do."
Yeah. Well, I love that you're helping them find that. And I saw that's available, or you can join a wait list through
Yeah,
your
wait, just give me
website.
another couple weeks.
And your
Mhm.
website is
Like,
lifebranches.com. Is that right,
mhm.
Ellen?
Yeah, and you can
Okay.
find me on Substack. Um, it's interesting, when I first started posting on this, I'd get comments or emails saying like, "Yeah, I've already been through menopause, but would this help me too?"
Yeah, because it's as we live longer, thanks to improvements and various things, I heard you in another conversation talk about, you're 70 and you want to be your life. And I remember my mother saying that a few years ago. She's 78. I think so, but around the time she turned 70, she was just like, I'm just going to live my life. I don't care. And so there's a different perspective on it.
Yesterday. So I've been miserable back in the weather in Chicago. But I have a dilemma. I want to be near my grandchildren as they grow up. So I bought a condo in Florida yesterday.
All right. You have the best of both worlds.
I think my son was about to call every psychiatric hospital yesterday to commit me.
Well, you are living proof that just like what you're teaching women to understand at 50 and beyond, and now you're 70 and living this amazing life and helping others and writing about it and giving this whole message and hope to a whole new generation of women. So,
that's what I'm hoping, that a lot of the younger women now are paying attention, because I know younger women are reading my posts and subscribing, that it will give them a leg up to anticipate what changes might happen, might or might not, but being educated about it and realizing life doesn't stop 50, 60.
Right.
I mean, how many women on Substack are on there that are in their 80s?
Wow. That's incredible. And
writing.
I was just starting 10 years ago or so when I started writing because I wrote a sobriety memoir. And when I wrote that, I was just starting to hear different stories about late bloomers and that it's never too late. And so I'm just so grateful that now here we are, years later, and that is true, and that we're just realizing that 50 is midlife, which means it's midlife. I mean, you still have a whole second half of life to live and make the most of. So
absolutely, it's never too late. I wrote that, and I think a lot of my notes on Substack. It's never too late.
Yeah, they can rock the damn boat at any age.
The only thing I know I can't do physically is probably do a marathon, but anything else I could probably do.
Right. Fly off to Florida with the dogs. Oh, I love it. Well, we have covered a lot, and I know that you have a wealth of information on your Substack. So we'll make sure that's in the show notes and that people can find you on Substack. It's just incredible. You share words of wisdom almost daily. And then you've got your midlife. Now, what is that called? The midlife assessment?
It's going to be called the Midlife Clarity Assessment.
You can find that at lifebranches.com. You can sign up for that there and learn more about Ellen's work. And it's just been a delight having you, Ellen.
Trying to think all the different ways I can help.
Yes. Well, I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to Rock the Damn Boat, a podcast produced and recorded by Christy Hughes. You can follow, subscribe on both Apple and Spotify, and your 5-star review goes a long way. Thank you so much for your support of the show.